Hello guys, how are you doing today? Ready for some news stories from Ask a Lawyer? Let's go to the first one, about OP, who decided to attend the birth of her husband's child with another woman, and is surprised why the other woman is furious. Yeah, I know. Sounds a little bit complicated. Well, listen to the story, guys, to find out why, and of course, to hear my insights on the matter. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. This is complicated. I apologize in advance. I, 32 female, was married to my boyfriend for several years. We dated through high school and married in college, have 3 children together. We divorced about 4 years ago. During this time, he had a few girlfriends, including his most recent. He got pregnant. They split up during the pregnancy due to her toxic ways. A month or so after the breakup was our daughter's birthday, which he attended. We talked a lot and decided to reconcile our marriage. There has been talk from time to time the last 4 years, but we really decided to make an effort this time. Obviously, his baby mama wasn't very happy about this, and although I had many confusing emotions about her pregnancy, I was supportive of my husband through it all. Last week, we got a call in the middle of the night saying his ex was being taken to the hospital for emergency C-section, and she was having medical complications. My husband was an emotional mess. We rushed to the hospital. They wouldn't allow him back since we got there too late and due to the severity of the situation. We waited patiently until allowed back to her room, in which I was already getting dirty looks from relatives there. The baby was brought back first, then her, which she was very doped up. I sat there for a while silently, respectfully while my husband held his child and tried to make small chit-chat with his ex. Everything went smooth. We stayed for a few hours before we had to head back due to the kids and work. The next day, we planned to visit again, but my husband's ex called my husband, screaming I had no right to be there, and if she wasn't so doped up, she would have had security take me out. My husband tried to explain that I came for support, but she hung up on him. Then I began getting angry texts from her saying I have no right, and she didn't want to see me at the hospital again. I said I only came to support my partner, and that I didn't want any drama. She said I wanted the drama the minute I stole her baby father. I told her I didn't steal no one. I had a life, 10 plus years with him and 3 kids, that I came to make sure her and the baby were okay. She then called me a nosy bee and said if I stepped foot in her hospital room again, she'd have me removed. I came honestly for my partner. I didn't want any drama. It was for support. Am I the a-hole? Well, I strongly believe OP didn't belong in the hospital room after OP's husband's ex-partner gave birth, and especially via an emergency C-section. I would be fuming as well if I was OP's husband's ex-partner. And if OP wants to support her husband, she can do it at home. That's just ridiculous in my opinion, and taking a piss of new mother. And OP says she didn't want any drama? She took back a man with a baby on the way that just broke up with a pregnant woman. That is the plot of a juicy soap opera if you ask me. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. The Real Scrotus says, going to the hospital to support your husband was acceptable, but you could have done that from the waiting room. Going into the birthing room to see the baby was not at all. You're the a-hole. Speaker Delicious 6315 says, you know you're the a-hole. There's no way on earth you didn't know showing up at the hospital would cause huge drama. OK Contribution 2425 says, you're the a-hole. You could have supported him from the waiting room. That is a major privacy violation on your part. She just had a complicated birth, on top of being abandoned after becoming pregnant by her ex. Your boyfriend, ex-husband, is an a-hole, and you're acting like it's no biggie. I hope she gives y'all hell. Long story short, I had reason to think that there was something going on behind my back, so I checked her texts. Between her and my stepdaughter, they were talking about a man that she has carpooled with for about 2 years. It started off saying that he was so depressed after she stopped talking to him for 3 days, that he got really depressed and lost 7 pounds in those 3 days. My stepdaughter said, that would be cringe if it weren't for the relationship you guys had. That's cute. My stepdaughter then told her that if it makes her happy, she should go for it. My wife then said there's too much at stake with our 4-year-old son and the house we own together. She said that they met at the wrong time, and maybe down the road they would get together. I was absolutely devastated. I texted her and told her that her bags were packed, she needed to find another place to live, and that our son would be staying with me. When she got home, we talked about what happened, and she admitted that it was an emotional affair, but nothing physical happened. She's been feeling depressed for some time and liked the attention she was getting from this man. Things that night ended rather amicable, and we agreed that we would go to counseling and work on our issues. The next day, I wanted to hurt this man who was trying to get with my wife. I wanted to make sure he would stay away. I went to his house, got a dress from a mutual friend. Not sure who I would find. His wife was sitting on the porch, and I explained the situation and showed her the pictures of the texts I took. We talked for a while, and I left. My wife called shortly after, and I told her where I went. She came home angry that I disrupted her work life. She said that people would talk. She felt like this was a direct attack on her in retaliation for what she had done. I told her that this was not my intention, but that I wanted to hurt him and keep him away. She decided that I was too spiteful and petty just to leave things how they were between us, and has begun looking for apartments. I did want her to feel like there were consequences for cheating, but I did not intend to ruin her reputation at work. Am I the a-hole? In my eyes, OP did nothing wrong. Her husband cheated, and she has a right to know and make her decision if she wants to stay in a marriage with him. I personally would like to know. I always say that I prefer an ugly truth instead of a sweet lie. What about you guys? Would you like to know such information? And let's see what the community's opinion on the matter is. Naked Astronomer says, "Not the a-hole. I would have paid to take out a full-page ad exposing them in the local paper." Mog is a Crip says, "Not the a-hole. You did the right thing letting the other wife know their partner is a cheater. Also, your wife is most likely lying about it just being emotional. She's trickling the truth to you. She was willing to cheat on you before. Don't be fooled that she won't be willing to lie to you now. The fact that she can't own up to her actions and is now trying to make you the bad guy shows she hasn't learned anything and isn't actually sorry." A Shattered King says, "Not the a-hole. Her husband was cheating, or at the very least, trying to cheat. His wife should know this so she can act accordingly. Counseling won't fix it. She didn't even feel shame in her behavior as she was openly sharing it with her daughter. She is a cheater and will always be one. You'd have to be incredibly naive to believe it wasn't physical. Move on, dude. Don't try to get her back. Keep the evidence for court so you don't get bent over too badly in court." My younger sister, Tessa, has been with Brian since her freshman year of high school, currently seniors in college. My mom has always loved Brian and treated him like family. He has some issues with his own mom and spent most of his time at our house. 6 months ago, Brian pranked my wife on a family trip by destroying all of her makeup. She found it in the toilet and in the sink filled with water and was irate. I've never seen her like this. We woke my mom up screaming and demanded she find out who did it. She didn't seem to think it was a big deal and tried to go back to sleep. Finally, she realized we were serious, so she woke Tessa, Brian, our other sister, and her boyfriend up to get to the bottom of it. Brian couldn't keep a straight face and finally admitted to it. My mom again tried to act like it wasn't a big deal, but I cussed Brian out and demanded he replace everything. We came up with an estimate which was just over $1,000. Makeup is her passion, and my mom paid it because she said Brian was just a college kid. I was pretty pissed, and we cut contact with Brian. It has since been implied that he was bribed with a fancy watch to do this, and everyone was drunk. But to me, there is no excuse. I still don't duck with Brian. Well, my mom is currently planning a wedding, and was talking about how she has no one to walk her down the aisle, as she is mad at her father, but feels like it's weird to not have someone. Brian volunteered, and she was clearly really moved by it and said yes. I internally felt sick. I told my mom that if she publicly honored Brian like that, I would not be able to go. My mom seemed really taken aback and said I was being crazy and we need to put this aside for a wedding. I said I was sorry, but I could not go if Brian was in a position of honor, because what he did was despicable. My mom said I was selfish and an a-hole and was like, fine, don't come. Brian got mad and said I was punishing my mom, and Tessa was screaming at me, calling me selfish and a horrible son. OP is definitely not in the wrong here. It wasn't a prank. It was destruction of property. And the fact that OP's mom paid for him makes me think OP's mom doesn't like OP's wife much. OP should do himself and his wife a favor and cut them out of his life. Let's see the community's opinion. Windlord Guayher 10 says, not the a-hole. You aren't comfortable with Brian after he did what he did, unapologetically, and found it funny. Nobody is required to attend the wedding. I would not make a big deal out of it, but just politely decline. Also, it wouldn't be bad if you just put up with it for one day for your mom. Wine Sis says, not the a-hole. First of all, destroying $1,000 of makeup is not a prank. Secondly, why wouldn't she want you, her son, to walk her down the aisle? I feel that there's a lot of background info missing here. However, I absolutely do not blame you for not attending the wedding. Deleted User says, not the a-hole. It's not about the makeup. It is about not respecting someone's items. It's about how Brian had zero consequences for his actions, since OP's mother paid. This wasn't a 5-year-old who did the prank. No, it was a grown adult who disrespected someone's items and didn't care. OP is mad because his mother doesn't care about his and his wife's property, allows Brian's actions to go unnoticed. It was never about the prank or makeup. It was about the lack of respect regarding their property and zero accountability for Brian. A bit of backstory. About 8 months ago, me and my partner got together. He still lives with his ex. They have a house together, pets, etc., and I'm okay with it. The relationship was dead well before they broke up. Nothing horrible, they just grew apart. It happens. Me and my partner live in different cities. We see each other a couple times a month. We normally take turns about with who travels. Again, not a problem. Him and his ex still have joint finances because of the mortgage, and they can't afford for one of them to buy the other one out. My partner earns over double what his ex earns. His ex is a teacher, so isn't paid throughout the holidays, and things get tighter with money. Roll forward to 3 months ago, and the ex's father is given a short time to live, roughly 6 to 9 months. The ex moves to be with their family, but is no longer working. Since there's only one income, things go back to being tight. This also means my partner can't afford to visit me because of fuel pricing, housing the pets, etc., and I can't afford to get up there more than I already do. I know it's a crappy position for the ex, but am I the a-hole for wanting to stop my partner from funding the ex's entire life? Well, I personally think that he's not classed as single. They are either still together, or OP's partner lacks serious boundaries and is a doormat. Partner doesn't prioritize OP. There's always a way if you want it, so they could try and find other options, such as selling the house, for example. Basically, in my opinion, it looks like he is still together with his wife. Joey Niles 9 says, if they had kids together, then it would make more sense. It's the mother of his kids. But no for me. You're not the a-hole. It's weird. And red flag. Bite Me 75 says, not the a-hole, but there's no reason your partner and his ex couldn't sell the house. Since you have only been dating for 8 months and the entire relationship has been long distance, I wonder if you're being told the whole truth. Winter Travel 5749 says, red flag, red flag, red flag. This person is not emotionally available. You're not in a real relationship with him. He is not your partner. I doubt that they are actually divorced, and even if they are clearly his day-to-day partner in real life. Please wake up and find a healthy, actual relationship with someone who is truly free to be in a relationship with you. My husband and I never got a wedding. We waited 3 years to finally do a small ceremony, which is coming up in 2 days. We just got back from a trip to a potential state we are going to move to. My husband's dad decided to come along, and he did pay for much of it, and he got to see his daughter in the state too. I'm very thankful for that. We were planning, for months, a small honeymoon in the nearest city for 4 days and 3 nights. It was clearly spoken that my side of the family, including myself, would pay for X, and my husband's side would pay for Y, the honeymoon. We never had a honeymoon after we eloped 3 years ago, and so this was greatly anticipated. We had asked and asked to make the reservations, but his dad kept saying to do it later. Now they are expensive because it is so close to the date. Jump to today, 2 days before my wedding. My husband's dad told him that he wasn't going to pay for the honeymoon because he paid for the trip. 2 days' notice, which for us meant one thing: no honeymoon. I would have been okay with it if he had given us a little notice a month ago so that I could have saved up for it. I would have canceled our trip too, potentially. But 2 days' notice was not enough time to plan a honeymoon and fund it by myself. I'm a broke college student and waitress. My husband is a nursing student and unemployed. I cried for hours. Then my husband told me that his dad changed his mind and would give us $1,500 for our honeymoon because he felt guilty. I would like to decline their offer, but my husband thinks that's prideful of me. I would rather use our savings at this point, but my husband doesn't want us to. I'm still angry, and his parents heard my husband and I's fight about it from the other room. My husband is on his dad's side and has made me feel like a bad person for expressing that I was upset. The fight was heated. Don't get me wrong, I am grateful for their help. I just feel whiplashed. Am I the a-hole? Well, I personally am such a person who doesn't expect anything from anyone and doesn't demand anyone to give me anything. In this case, there are no hurt feelings. It's best when we earn ourselves and can pay for ourselves, so no expectations are ruined. Yasai Katsukuri says, "Everyone sucks here. You got married 3 years ago and now want a ceremony, paid for honeymoon, and you're unemployed, and just got back from a paid-for trip. Father-in-law should have given you far more notice and communicated better, but having a wedding at a time you can't afford it is foolish." Level 1 says, "You're the a-hole. Let me get this straight. You are broke and your husband is unemployed, and you guys got married? Sounds to me like you are in no position to demand anything." Toki5 says, "Not the a-hole. You aren't just laying around trying to freeload. This was a planned thing that you could have worked around if you had known. I was a broke college student when I got married too. We lived with my mother until we finished school and found decent jobs. Our families were super supportive. It sounds like your father-in-law is also supportive, extending an olive branch like he did. You're right to be frustrated, but take the branch, have some fun, and try not to let it get you down too much."